So there's the conflict. Always start with the conflict. Who could possibly love me like I am? Or at least like I misperceive myself. Now, anyone who was told as a child that they weren't the light of God, that they were less than the light of God, and as a child you agreed, then you're likely to have some issues. Anybody here have issues? Yeah, many of us were confused in our youth because we weren't told that we were the light of God. We weren't reminded on a regular basis that we were good, that we ought to be afraid of God, that if we didn't change, God wouldn't love us. And if God won't love us, then other people won't love us. Our parents won't love us. If you don't change, I won't love you. And some of us spent many years trying to change and still found out we weren't loved by those people who said, if you don't change, I won't love you. Wait, what I found out, those people were sneaky. Because you see, what happened was, those couple of people who said, I won't love you unless you change. Well, I kept changing. But see, if they'd actually told me I had changed sufficiently, they would have lost the person trying to make them happy, trying to do something for them, and they would have lost their attention. Because you see, those people were also the ones who forgot they were good, who hadn't been reminded nearly often enough that they were good, or they agreed with someone. When I was a kid, it seemed like my mother and my brother didn't like me, and I didn't understand why. Anybody who's looked at my Facebook page this week knows I was adorable, and I was as cute as could be. And so how could I not be liked by these two people? My oldest brother and my mother, because they were always mad at me, and I didn't know what I had done. Well, it turns out they were mad at themselves, and they were mad at life. And I didn't know that because, you know, a 4-year-old doesn't understand these things. A 4-year-old doesn't understand that the big people around him or her are mad. And the 4-year-old needing love and reminders that they're good is just in the way of people who forget that they are good. And so, I had to get older, significantly older, and start telling myself that I was good. You know, it just took a couple of nice people to remind me, and then I decided to agree with them. And so, would you be willing to agree with me if I said, you're good? Would you be willing to agree? Yeah, isn't that a nicer thing to agree with? Agree with Shawn. Oh, Shawn says I'm good. I'm going to agree with him because you know what? I don't care to agree with everyone in the traffic today. I don't care to agree with some of my past because it's illogical to agree with anyone who says you are less than God. Most importantly, it is illogical, and I mean no offense, but quite frankly, shall we use the word stupid or insane, to agree with yourself when you tell yourself that. It's so foolish to agree with yourself when you tell yourself, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I did such a bad thing. Oh, I did this terrible thing today. No, you have feelings, you have sensations that you label as that, when all it really is, you know, and we don't know how to spell, so we can come up with illogical words and words that inaccurately describe ourselves and the good that we are. Just because I haven't behaved well, I think sometimes I'm not good, or I was scolded as a kid, and I somehow took on guilt, as if guilt would be an eternal reality. Religion taught us a lot. Anybody listened to the radio show the other day? Ed Townley and I talked about that how unnecessary that guilt is, and how confused traditional religionists have been, that we should be guilty over the whole Jesus thing. And Jesus is the one that kept telling us, you don't need to be guilty. Jesus was emphatic about that. You do not need to be guilty. And what happened? People came along and confused the story. And they made it all about the crucifixion instead of about the resurrection. They made it about death instead of life. And they didn't have to. The message of G-O-D, God, good orderly direction, whatever you want to call it, is good. You are good. You're always going to be good, and there is a way. When the Bible says that Jesus says, I am the way, what we're talking about is Jesus found a way in. He found a way into the peace that is, the love that is, the joy that is. And he found a way because that was a better alternative than guilt. That was a better alternative than shame. He had a choice. He had a choice the same as we all do every single day. He had a choice. He was not the exception. And neither are we. You know, not one of us here is the exception that we are too evil, too bad to enter into the kingdom. If the kingdom is within, how could I be too bad to go within? How could I be too stupid to go within, too ugly to go within, too fat, too thin, too bald, too whatever to go within, too ashamed to go within? We have that option at every moment. I was reading this in the Metaphysical Bible. Because this is about the law of absolute unity. And I'm going to read this first. The law of absolute unity is the principle that we are not separate from the whole, though we are individual expressions of it. As an expression of the whole, we are also a part of its diversity. Above all, this law speaks to the fact that there is only one power in the universe, that there is no equal or even semi-equal entity who can do battle with universal being. Okay, do we hear that? There's nothing to do battle with what is changeless. There is nothing. So, I can't lose. You can't lose. The people I love who are so confused can't lose. And the people I just still seem to hate can't lose. And so, what a relief that everybody wins. It was never a contest. It was never, it's just a game that we are playing. But in God, as they say, there is no time in God. God's not tapping his fingernails waiting for us to get around to it. It's me who's tapping my fingernails waiting to get around. Okay, Shawn, you going to choose now? Are you going to choose now? Are you going to choose now? Are you going to choose now? God doesn't care. God's not a man who cares. God's got all the no time in the world. It's because, as I've said before, when it happens, it'll be now. When it happens. When I wake up, the time will be now. At the sound of the tone, the time will be now. So I don't have to worry. When does everything happen? Now. It doesn't happen then. It happens now. Every single thing that ever takes place happens now. This is happening now. It's not happening later. It's not happening ago. It's happening now. So I don't have to worry. That's part of it. So if the gifts that God is, that God has already given, because remember, we aren't waiting around for God to give us the gifts. What we are waiting around is for us to receive them. Well, I am waiting around often to say yes. And what I'm doing while I'm waiting is manufacturing grievances. While I'm waiting, I'm manufacturing lack. While I'm waiting, I'm manufacturing a good argument, a good cold, a good whatever, while I'm waiting. But at the moment I say yes, those things don't exist anymore. At the moment I accept my oneness with the whole, my absolute unity, none of that stuff, there are no grievances. Who here has ever been mad at somebody and isn't now? Okay then, what happened? They didn't change, you did. You changed the way you saw these individuals. So that tells me that anybody I'm mad at, not true. I have manufactured it temporarily. Who here has ever experienced lack and then suddenly had abundance? That's all. Yeah, everybody's hand is well. Come on, people. Nobody has experienced lack every moment, all the time. Nobody. And it's cyclical. But it tells me I manufactured it. It's not truth. Lack is not true. Who has ever experienced what they felt like, I just don't know what to do, and suddenly they did? So it tells me the I don't know is temporary. I manufactured it while I was waiting to remember that I knew. While I was waiting to remember, I'm part of the whole. The law of absolute unity. And we're not talking about the unity movement. We're talking about a universal law that is available to all. So when Raisa and Christina sang, who will love me as I am? Because I got to the point where I couldn't even, got to the point, my gosh, I was taught God could not love me as I am. I was absolutely taught that God did not love me as I am. I had to change if I was going to be worthy of God's love. What they were really saying is I had to change if I was going to be worthy of their love. So maybe some of those people, what they were hoping for is that we would become the example. We as little children would become the example for the adults. So maybe they could find a way to love themselves. I never thought of it in those terms before this second. That has never occurred to me before. That, the big people, which I'm now one of, is they were hoping that me as the little child would insist on being the light. Would just, no matter how much they tried to dissuade me from it, I would insist, no, I am the light. I am the light, I am the light, I am the light. So that they could remember they were the light. And unfortunately, that's not what happened. I agreed with them that I was not the light. I agreed with them that they were not the light. And a battle ensued for many years. Until one day I woke up and said, oh, enough of this. We're just all so poorly behaved. But doggone it, I'm the light. And I'm going to learn how to act on being the light. And I'm going to learn how to see you as the light, even if you insist that you're not. I'm not going to agree with you anymore. And so, to go out into the world now, as these beings of light, us, who are insisting that we are the light, to go out into the world, insist that we see the light. I see the light. I see the light. How can I see the light? Because it's available to all. It's available. Guilt is a useless commodity today. Shame is not agreeing with God. There's no humility in guilt that I experience. There's no humility in shame. There's no humility in embarrassment. And if I took the meaning away from what I thought, well then, what cause would I have for embarrassment? If that event didn't have the meaning I thought it did, or my mother thought it did, then what cause would I have for embarrassment? What cause? If weight had no meaning, heavy or thin, then what cause for embarrassment would there be around the body? If sexuality had no meaning, then what cause for either right or wrong would there be? If we were talking, who was I talking to? I think it was in the class, and they were talking about a lot. And I said, well, what is a lot to God? What is a little to God? I make that up. How much is a lot? How much is a little? Available to all is what God is. And let me read this. It's from the Bible. From John 3:19-21. And this is the verdict, that the light came into the world, but people preferred darkness to light. Which do you prefer? Some of us would say we prefer light, and yet we still keep inviting darkness over for dinner. We invite darkness into our relationships. We invite darkness into our thoughts of the past. We invite darkness. So it tells me I still prefer darkness. If I'm going to get up and I'm going to complain about you guys, I obviously prefer darkness. If I'm going to complain about my body, if I'm going to complain about my money, if I'm going to complain about the sky and the weather, if I'm going to complain about the carpet and the walls, if I'm going to complain about the past and the future, I prefer darkness. And that's okay. But at least know, oh, I just prefer it. Doesn't mean it's a reality. Doesn't mean the darkness is real. It just means I prefer playing this game. That darkness is my preference today. But light is still all that exists. That's where I have gleaned such relief from. Is God is still going to be God, whether I pretend otherwise or not. I am still what I am, whether I pretend otherwise or not. You are still what you are, whether you or I pretend that you are something else. Isn't that nice? Divine substance is still always going to be divine substance. Truth is always going to be true. And it's available to all. Available to all. Sometimes we try to withhold it from the very people we say we're wishing it for. We try to withhold. We say, poor thing. Oh, that poor thing. Do you hear what happened? That poor thing. And I thought, no, it's not. That's not true. I don't know. I'll tell you, in this past week and a half, I've known either known or known of more people who have left this planet. Last week, 3 friends' mothers made their transition. This week, 2 friends of mine made. My first friend in New York made his transition on Monday. By surprise, Sunday had a stroke, Monday gone. I was like, what? How can I wrap my head around that my friend Bradshaw is not here anymore? That makes no sense. He was just sitting working Sunday night, and Monday he left the planet. In a hospital, I didn't know about it, in a hospital right next door to the building I was in Monday night. You know, it was Roosevelt Hospital. We were all, 3 of us were in the building next door. And he made his transition, and as I was on my way home, I got a phone call from Nancy. I said, oh, Bradshaw died to the front. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. So why would I give that meaning? Well, I guess because I want to create some sense of safety for myself. I want to box it in because I think in my illusions that I will feel safe. But see, that's not the part of God that's available to all. Well, it is available. It's an option that's available. But it's not the unlimited option. The unlimited option is only truth is true. Only love lives here. Only peace and goodness is what I am. And I'm going to take the rest of the story away. Because in my attempt to create safety, what I'm doing is resisting safety. In my attempt to create love, I'm resisting love. In my attempt to create harmony, I'm resisting harmony. In my attempt to create peace and joy and wisdom, I'm resisting them. I can't create what has already been created. In my attempt to create wealth, I'm resisting wealth. In my attempt to figure things out, I'm resisting that they are already figured out. I am loved just as I am, with all my stuff, with all my stories, with all my imaginary flaws. I am loved. I am loved. You see, God has never left me. Peace has never left me. Joy has never left me. Wisdom has never left me. What is has never left me. Will never leave me. The love that is has never left a single one of us. We've just pretended. So the question is again, who will love me as I am? Everybody. It just seems like the other. And we're about to hear the resolution, the solution. Could you bear to say, I am loved as I am? Maria, could you say, I am loved as I am?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you? How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you? Zuli.
I am loved as I am.
Carolyn. How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am. I am loved as I am.
Steve.
I am loved as I am. I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
I'm loved as I am.
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am. I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
How about you?
I am loved as I am.
How about you guys?
Love
How about you?
Loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
How about you?
I'm loved as I am.
And so it is.